Good morning. Actually, I'm going to start with a quick video.
But you know, the promise of AI versus the reality of AI, it's not quite crystal clear in my mind yet how that's going to work out for workers. Do you have anyone who wants to lay this out more bluntly, perhaps while auditioning to be a Bond villain from his mountaintop lair?
Left completely to the market and to their own devices, these are fundamentally labor-replacing tools.
Cut. That is Jon Stewart, the famous satirist, in a clip aired last week. And what I want to suggest to you over the next 20 minutes or so is that this is a preview of an ethos of skepticism that is beginning to pervade societies globally. At Edelman, we have been studying trust in society, trust across the globe, for the past 23 years. We conduct an annual survey across 28 countries. We survey more than 32,000 people. The data I'm going to take you through over the next few minutes is from our most recent study that was released just a few months ago, and it is really shocking and I think incredibly informative for how we think about AI's integration into society in this present moment. And what I want to challenge us to think about today is how we can navigate today's trust environment to encourage society's embrace rather than rejection of AI technology moving forward. AI technology has tremendously profound potential benefits for all of us, but we can't take it for granted. I'm going to take us through, at various points in the conversation, an AI trust roadmap. I want to make this very practical for all of us, and there are, I think, 4 things I want you to leave this room knowing, and 4 things that I think you can do to help meet that challenge. So let's talk about innovation being at risk today. And before we dive more deeply into AI specifically, I want to give you a sense of what kind of the trust landscape in society looks like right now. A couple of key points. First, in our research, we study 4 institutions specifically. We look at businesses, NGOs or nonprofit organizations, media, and government. And we look at these institutions across a number of metrics, including perceptions of ethical performance and competence. And you'll note, business is the only real institution that is perceived across the globe as both ethical and competent today. Government is on the other end of the spectrum. That's a really important point that we'll arrive back at the end. The other shocking stat that emerged out of this year's data is that we are entering a new sort of paradigm of distrust. As we talk to people around the globe, the vast majority of people now tell us that when they look at government leaders or business leaders or journalists, not MIT Technology Review, but generally, they not only do they distrust these leaders that we see every day, but they feel that these leaders are purposely trying to mislead them, that they are purveying false information or vastly exaggerating the facts. The other interesting thing to note about the trust landscape today is that there is a almost universal and existential personal economic anxiety around the globe. 88% of people that we talked to told us that they were worried about the potential of losing their job within the next year. I work at a professional services company, most of my clients have gone through rounds of layoffs and redundancies this year. My firm has gone through rounds of layoffs and redundancies. I am one of those 88%. And that pervasive economic anxiety exceeds fears about real existential crises like nuclear war or the effects of climate change or misinformation. The other thing to note is that people are becoming more skeptical about the institution's ability to successfully introduce new technological innovations into society. And what makes them anxious is they don't know that these institutions, whether they be business or government or nonprofit entities, can be trusted to introduce innovation into society safely, whether they can be trusted to successfully educate the public about how this technology works and what the benefits are and how to mitigate risks, but whether these institutions can be trusted to maximize the benefits of new invention for the most people and to provide the broadest access to the most people. Interestingly enough, when we dug into the data, we found that trust in an industry sector is not translating into product level trust today. So the technology sector is actually one of the most trusted industry sectors we look at. 76% of the people around the globe trust the sector in general, but when we ask them about specific inventions that that sector is bringing to market and introducing to society, the trust at the product level falls off a cliff. And this is true across other industries as well, whether it's agricultural food production and genetically modified food or gene-based medicine and healthcare. There is a huge gap between macro-level sector trust and product-level trust, and that is a gap that we need to close. And for AI specifically, we are at a real inflection point. Societies across the globe are really grappling and wrestling with the question of, is this an invention and an innovation that I want to embrace as part of my community and national story and private and professional life? Or is this something that is not going to be beneficial for me and my neighbors in the long run, and then by virtue, I should reject it? We are at that inflection point for artificial intelligence right now, as the clip from Jon Stewart suggests. Another really important point that will help give us some practical guidance, as we looked at who are the trusted messengers in particular, who do people look for as bearers, standard bearers of truth and reliable information, there are really only two types of people that we trust and take information from today. The first is scientists and technical experts, which we'll dig into a little bit more later. The other is, quote unquote, someone like me, my neighbor, my colleague at work, someone that looks or acts or has a similar communal experience as me. They are a reliable, or perceived as a reliable purveyor of information and a messenger. Alongside that pervasive economic anxiety, people have very specific pervasive anxieties around artificial intelligence. More than 2/3 of people we talk to around the globe feel that they or people like them do not have a lot of control over how AI affects their life. This ability to self-actualize, this ability to have some say in how the innovation and invention impacts their daily lives is really, really critical. People do not feel that they have that at the moment. So this brings us to the first destination on our AI trust roadmap. The first thing I want you to know is that we cannot take society's embrace of AI for granted. It is not enough merely to invent and to let innovation and artificial intelligence out free to roam in society. If we don't do specific things, that embrace will turn into rejection. And what I would suggest that we can do to help address this is use those trusted voices. Many of those trusted voices are in this room, those technical experts, those people like me or like the stakeholders that you're communicating with. Those are the people that need to be a part of our advocacy for responsible innovation. And we have to speak directly to the tangible benefits and the broad accessibility of the technology for the broadest cross-section of society. We're also at a very interesting moment globally. This year actually has, I think, more global elections than we've seen in almost a century. And in this environment where people across the globe are going to the polls, we are finding that most people, nearly 60% of folks across the 28 countries that we survey, feel that government is not up to the task currently of understanding and providing effective oversight of emerging technologies like artificial intelligence. You'll see that feeling is almost universal, whether we're talking about developing or developed nations. Alongside that, by a 2-to-1 margin, people feel that innovation is being poorly managed. What does it mean to poorly manage innovation? It means, people tell us, that they don't trust business to safely introduce these innovations into society. Alongside that fear, they don't feel that government is up to the task of successfully regulating these technologies. And they have this sense that the science, the invention, is still not independent of politics and money. That there's something in the system that is skewed, that is off, and will not benefit society broadly. That fear that innovation is being poorly managed is nearly universal. We see this 2-to-1 ratio across nearly every country that we talk to. There are some exceptions like Singapore where the ratio is more like 1-to-1. I would suggest it is still not a great place to be. But this fear of poor management of innovations and AI's introduction to society is widely held. It is also universally held across demographic groups. We cut this data by income level, and people say the same thing. We cut this data by gender. The genders feel the same way. We cut this data by age cohort. Generations feel the same way. I want to suggest that this truly is a pervasive and increasingly universally held sense. It also applies across the political spectrum. Liberal, conservative, right or left. Across here, 21 countries that we survey, the bar chart shows the difference in feelings of, or tendency to reject AI for people on the left or the right. And you'll see that there is essentially no difference globally. One very interesting data point that emerged this year is that while this fear of innovation's mismanagement, fear of its effects on society is rather pervasive, we are seeing a little bit more hope and optimism in developing countries. The most pessimistic nations and societies are actually the developed countries, the United States, where I'm from, the UK, Canada. These are also the countries that are on the leading edge of adoption and innovation and introducing this invention into our daily life, which again I think provides us a preview of where we might be headed for other nations as well if we don't take some concrete steps. So we've now arrived at the second stop on our AI trust roadmap. Second thing I want you to know is that mismanaged innovation, mismanaging the introduction of AI and invention into society drives the rejection of that technology at a societal level. The thing I want us to do, my call to action for all of us, is to be advocates for the responsible management of that innovation in society. I think there's a lot of institutions and organizations and people that would like to just invent and run as fast as we can. Collectively, we cannot do that. Collectively, we need to be united as responsible advocates for innovation. You'll recall I mentioned a little bit earlier that scientists are the most trusted messenger we have across the globe today. Not only are they perceived as reliable messengers, but people say they want to see and understand the active role that scientists and technical experts have in helping to manage innovation's introduction into society. They want to understand their role in the product development life cycle. When we ask people who should have a big role in managing this introduction of AI into society, they did not say it was government leaders, they did not say it was CEOs, they said we want the scientists, we want the technical experts. And so this presents a unique moment for science to come down from an ivory tower. It is no longer enough just to invent. We have to roll up our sleeves. We have to work actively to introduce safely those inventions into society in the way that is most broadly beneficial and accessible to the broadest number of people. And the impact of doing that successfully can be very profound. When we look at the data, when we are able to give people a high degree of confidence that scientists or ethical experts have had an active role in a product's development lifecycle, we see people swinging on the question of AI from this posture of active rejection to active embrace of the technology. People also want a voice. They don't feel like their concerns are being heard. They don't feel like they have an opportunity to ask questions. And this brings us to the third stop on our roadmap. Scientists, the technical experts, as many of you in this room, must have a two-way dialogue with the people. We need you. You're essential to this equation. And for everyone else, the business leaders, the government leaders, the academic leaders, we need to be very mindful of emphasizing and highlighting and educating people about the role that scientific and ethical experts have in our product and innovation life cycles, and demonstrate to people that we are listening to them and give them a venue to ask us questions and have that two-way dialogue. So I want to end here in the next couple minutes on a more optimistic note. Our data also suggests there's also very tangible things that we can do to encourage this embrace of AI. Interestingly, I'm really glad that Michelle was here, because while there is this pervasive individual economic anxiety, and most of the headlines around AI, or a lot of the headlines, have talked about impact to workforce and jobs, what we actually found when we talked to people who said they were less enthusiastic about AI, and we asked them, why is that? The number one reason right now is fears over privacy and the compromise of their control over their data. Second to that is this feeling that AI might devalue, in a sense, what it means to be human. It might devalue our human ingenuity and creativity and values. And what can we do about that? So we asked people, what would make you feel more positive? And they said, here's what I need to see from you. They said, I need to see tangibly what the benefits of this technology are going to be for society, for the community in which I live. I need to see tangibly what the benefits are going to be for me in my everyday life. And even if I accept that those benefits are going to be real for me individually or for the community in which I operate, I also need to have confidence that we're managing the risks of that technology. People understand that there are going to be people that will be adversely affected by this technological revolution. They want assurances that those people and groups and communities will be taken care of in the process. They also want to know that businesses are thoroughly testing the technology. There's a lot of talk about red teaming and blue teaming and responsible AI teams. These should not be afterthoughts when we think about business models and plans and how we communicate about AI publicly. They are essential to society's adoption. They also want to be able to trust that government is ensuring safe implementation of the technology with that introduction. And if you can do those things, if you can give people confidence again that innovation will lead to a better future for their communities and societies, we again see acceptance of AI swing from this category of active rejection to active embrace. This is what we need, this is what we must do. And the last point I want to make, you'll recall the very first slides we saw, business is the only institution perceived as both ethical and competent, and government is perceived as tremendously unethical and tremendously lacking in competence. Business leaders, when it comes to AI and society's acceptance of AI, have to be a partner in building the public's trust in government competence. This chart shows the increase in demand, those green circles, for public-private partnerships, for business and government working together. Over the past 10 years of our research, the demand for public and private partnership is surging, and we need to feed that demand. If we feed that demand, if we can demonstrate successful public-private partnership and give people confidence that government is up to the task, once again, we see society's acceptance of AI swing from rejection to embrace. And now we've arrived at the fourth and final stop on our AI trust roadmap. The fourth and final thing I want you to leave this room knowing today is that effective regulation is essential for AI's adoption. If you are developing artificial intelligence products or solutions or businesses around that universe, you also have to be a partner in building society's trust in government oversight of it. And the thing I would encourage you to do is feed that demand for business-government partnership. This ultimately is a team sport. No individual or institution can go at this alone. And I hope I leave you with a bit of optimism and some guidance for how to do that, because I think this technology has tremendously impactful potential for all of us moving forward. Thank you very much.